All right, so I'm going to begin with a quick moderator speech and then we'll jump right into the presentation. So welcome everybody to the JDC West 2022 Business Technology presentation. So I really want to just thank our judges who've been with us all day. This is the final business technology presentation of the day, and they've been amazing throughout this whole day. So big thanks to our judges, Justin Funk, Lawrence Lazarco, Chris Hocus, David Franklin, and Daniel Miguel. Competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present their presentation, and immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask the presenters questions. Competitors, you will see Zoom chat notifications at various intervals to indicate the remaining time left in the presentation. Any speaker who continues to speak after the maximum time limit will be stopped. No questions or comments will be permitted from the audience at any time, and all judges are asked to have their microphones muted during the presentation. The audience is banned from any material or naming convention that bears the name or symbol of a competing university. And we just ask that the audience leave the Zoom call immediately following the presentation. Judges can please stay on the call until I advise you to move to our next call. So with that being said, competitors, you can feel free to begin to share your screen, and I'll start the time once you begin presenting to us. So thank you so much, and best of luck.
Finders keepers, you have done an amazing job and tenfolded your user registration targets. You're helping thousands of people find the love of their life. And today, let's help you find a financially, technically, and ethically sustainable strategy for your long-term growth.
Hi, Finders, Keepers, and Judges panel. My name is Carrie, and together with my teammates, Jeffrey and Sean, we are Quantum Consulting. And we are so excited to come together today to help you answer your question of how Finders Keepers can prioritize its initiatives to create sustainable long-term growth. The key considerations that we want to look at today are user experience, big data, and cybersecurity, coming together in our overarching strategy of supporting your long-term relationship, coming from first impressions, which is our matching algorithm, to building trust with our freemium revenue model, to finally securing the relationship with your cybersecurity strategy. From this, we want to see an impact of 6.6 subscriber rates by 2023, as well as a $3.7 million in net profit by 2024, and finally a zero leak KPI in your cybersecurity. So let's take a look at your current state. We know that you have done exceptional in exceeding your anticipated users to 300,000 users. And we know that you have a company focus on being an ethical and secure brand. But we are currently facing some technological issues in user experience and cybersecurity. And we exist in a diluted industry landscape. So how about our future state? In the future, we want to acquire greater market share in the dating service app space. We want to make sure that we have ethical use, management, and governance of our user data, and that we have stable and secure app platform technology. With all of this, we want to ensure that we have sustainable long-term user growth on our app. So how can we help Finders Keepers get from your current state to its future state? Let's take a look at our analysis for this. We know that Finders Keepers faces several internal and industry challenges, such as user chat storage, cybersecurity, and your big data concerns, as well as your internal tech operations and many others. However, what you have asked us to do today is, with a constraint of $5 million, what initiatives should Finders Keepers really focus on? And the ones that we've decided to prioritize are, firstly, user experience. How can we enhance user experience to retain our customer base? Secondly, big data. How can we leverage user data in an ethical and sustainable manner? And third, cybersecurity. How can we ensure the safety and privacy of users on our app? To take a look at the first one, user experience, we know that user experience is important to retain our customer base. But why is customer retention important? Firstly, it increases the time that users spend swiping on our app, which increases our potential for profit. It also decreases the need to acquire new users and decreases our customer acquisition costs. What we can observe in our current industry is that millions of subscribers never find their app match on dating apps. And as a result, users are discouraged and they leave the platform. What we can gather from this is that our system of geolocation algorithms are not matching users based on the right variables, and we'll address that in our recommendations. Second, with big data, how can we leverage user data in an ethical and sustainable manner? We currently sell user data to third-party users at $3 per user. But what are some of the ethical concerns of selling this user data? This data is sold to third parties for their own goals and revenue. It also distributes personally identifiable information of our users, and it also discloses current location of users to third parties. As a result, we can see that this sale of personal data is a breach of privacy, and it doesn't align with our company brand of being ethical and secure. But what are some alternative revenue streams for finders keepers then that are ethical and sustainable? We've considered 4 different options here, remaining with the status quo. So this one is to increase disclaimers and consent on our app so that users can acknowledge that their data is being sold. Secondly, tailored ads. We continue to sell user data and we allow tailored ads on finders keepers. Third, untailored ads. We could purely show generic ads shown to all users on finders keepers. And lastly, a subscription model. So monthly subscriptions, fees for additional features and add-ons on our app. To decide on these 4 decision options, we've come up with decision factors of whether it's financially profitable, how ethical this recommendation is, how technologically feasible this recommendation is, and finally, how it impacts our users if they are satisfied. And with this, we've considered that status quo doesn't actually mitigate the ethical concerns of our company, and it still leaves room for customer dissatisfaction. With tailored ads, we see it's still highly unethical with the sale of our customer data, and it also doesn't help our users be satisfied. With tailored ads, it doesn't bring in enough financial revenue to sustain our company, but the one we've chosen is subscription model because of the fact that it is purely ethical and it helps increase user satisfaction by creating more value for them. Lastly, we can look at how we can ensure the safety and privacy of users on our app. So currently we can see that Finders Keepers does not have a cybersecurity strategy in place to protect from data breaches. And this can negatively affect our reputation, financial standing, and data security. So what we can see here is that to be an ethical and sustainable company, Finders Keepers really needs a cybersecurity strategy to protect our user data. And to go over the 3 topics that we've decided to examine today. Firstly, user experience. Second, big data. And the third one is cybersecurity. And I'll pass it on to Sean to talk about our recommendations.
All right, let's get into our recommendations. So before we can go into our overall strategy, there is a key technology that we want to be able to solve, which is our storage problem. And so with our storage problem, which drives all of our other recommendations, we want to be able to go with a cloud storage solution, mainly because it's of the external expertise that these vendors have, dedicated vendor staff who are updating and maintaining these cloud solutions, low upfront cost, which we can reallocate to more strategic initiatives that I'll talk about, and then also scalability, which is the pay-as-you-go payment, which allows for scaling with data that you would need in the future. So the overall strategy that we have is just like supporting a long-term relationship. And what we need to do in this overarching strategy is answer all 3 questions posed by analysis. And so first, just like a relationship, you need to have good first impressions. And so with that, we want to use matching algorithms to help boost our user experience. So matching algorithm is an AI function that matches based on personal survey information. For example, you can have occupation, preferences, etc. And what this will do is that we'll combine this our current geographical matching with this matching algorithm to enhance our contextual scoring so that we'll be able to have better, moving forward, better match quality, better match frequency, and also increasing our retention rate. And so overall, this matching algorithm really enhances our user experience by providing more of what they want, which is matches. And this improves retention, which is key to our sustainable growth, your sustainable growth as a company. So the second part of a long-term relationship is being able to build trust. So the question that we want to answer here is, how can we leverage user data in an ethical and sustainable manner? And how we'll be able to build trust is with our freemium model. So what's different about our freemium model is plan dates, which are auto-generated date plans based on our geographical and also our matching data based on location and interest when you match. And so, for example, a plan date could be with Bob and Sally, and they are located 2 kilometers from each other. They both like pizza, and they also both like sports. So an example plan date would be that it would recommend to go to Boba's Pizza Shack, which is 4 kilometers away from both of them, and also recommend potential conversations. And so why is this important? It's because plan dates really use the data that we've been able to cultivate, and it leverages it so that our user experience and our product delivery is more valuable. And it also differentiates us from other services, other product offerings that are offering similar services. It's a natural extension that extends our 3-in-1 profile business model with our business, your relationship app, your friendship app, and all of these 3 things need dates. For example, coffee dates, romantic dates. And so this really is a natural extension from that business model, and also provides safety for, suggests safer and more public areas for dates to protect users. And so in addition to our freemium model, we'll have a subscription model, which is a 2-tiered system with different perks at different levels, which we will detailed more in our appendix, as well as one-time in-app purchases, which are also more detailed in our appendix with different perks. And one question that might be asked is, what about the high acquisition cost? Well, we've considered this, and acquisition cost is actually defined by the cost of sales plus marketing divided by the new customers acquired. And currently the benchmark is $189, which is quite high, but this is all because of the install to subscriber rate. And if we're able to increase the install to subscriber rate from 1.5%, which is our current, to 10%, which is the industry standard, which we think is actually very possible, and we're confident that we'll be able to achieve that, we'll be able to decrease this acquisition cost from almost $200 to less than $30, which is very manageable for your company. So the freemium model really introduces a new thing, plan dates, which acts as a competitive advantage that extends our current business model, but also acts as a really good ethical alternative for a revenue stream, the best suited for your company. And finally, just in a long-term relationship, we really want to be able to secure the relationship. And for your company, that means having cybersecurity measures. So how can we really ensure the safety and privacy of the users on the app? So what are the threats that can really attack your company's database? First is insider threats, which are the most often that happen in the workplace. There's also external breaches, which is hackers or data theft. And then finally, data leakages, which happens without correct training or policies. And so we want to be able to approach all 3 of these things with our own solution, which targets all 3. So data access controls, where data will be classified so that only certain people have access to certain data. We want to be able to protect our data with secure and rigorous encryption and firewalls, as well as rigorous testing. And then finally, data policies. So developing data policies for users to ensure that leakage is mitigated. For example, when you go out of the office, you have a VPN on, or having clean desk and clean screen policies. And so with these data security measures, we're able to have a well-rounded measure against all possible threats, supporting your long-term growth, not just with tech, but also with policies. And so with our recommendation, how will we really be able to make this come to life? I'll pass it on to Jeffrey to go into implementation.
Thank you, Sean. You might wonder, how will our operation change, and how can we implement this to drive an ethical and sustainable revenue model? We will be building our implementation in the same model Sean described. First is encryption, first impression being improving the user experience, building trust where we leverage the big data to make better suggestions, and securing the relationship, creating a cybersecurity policy and infrastructure. Let's look at first impression. So there are 2 milestones to hit here. First, in 4 months, we will be acquiring sufficient cloud storage to store our data. In 12 months, we'll be finishing our algorithm improvements to help users find better matches. Let's look at our cloud storage. Cloud storage is in a way the prerequisite for any other suggestion, because that is the urgent burning need we have. So our users are backlogged because they can no longer message other people and find the messages they sent prior. So this is the urgent need we have identified. Luckily, there is an easy fix. We'll be purchasing sufficient data storages to meet this basic need, and in a model where we will be basically first evaluating and contracting a cloud vendor, for example, AWS, and then executing it through creating data pipelines to load the instant messaging chats onto cloud, and lastly, doing continuous monitoring to ensure there's sufficient data storage. And last but not least, we'll be building a significant buffer. We'll be allocating 10 gigabytes per user instead of 1 gigabyte currently. So that significant buffer will enable us to do other things that's interesting. Moving on, how can we improve the user experience? We want to match users not only by location, but also by hobbies and operations. We'll be defining the scope of what we will be measuring, matching users on. Next, we'll be defining the time, budget, and stakeholder for the development of this new matching algorithm. We will allocate 8 months for this initiative, 500,000, especially mostly in salaries, and having our chief operating officer being the project manager and software engineers doing the development. Last but not least, we want to ensure ethical standards are met, so that no matches are based on discriminatory basis, for example, by race. Next up, we'll be executing. We need more hands on deck, so we'll be hiring 3 additional junior software engineers, and with this workforce, we'll be developing and testing this new matching algorithm in the 8 months, and we'll be allocating 200,000 as a buffer for this initiative. Moving on, we'll be monitoring 3 key things. First and foremost is the match success rates. So that's the thing our users actually care about, if they can find the right match. So we'll be monitoring the number of swipes a user needs to do until they find an actual match. And we're benchmarking that on industry average. Next, we'll be looking at user retention, and we hope to boost that to 10% from 1.5% today, which is also the industry average. And lastly, we'll be monitoring the diversity in matches to ensure all ethical and diversity considerations are taken into account. Moving on, let's look at building trust. We'll be leveraging our big data to build a new revenue model. In 4 months, we'll be shifting away from selling data into building a subscription-based model where we can still profit. And in 12 months, we'll be launching that new subscription-based model. And moving on, let's look at the planning. In 4 months, we'll be phasing out data selling and discontinuing some contracts we have with the data buyers, which can take some time. So we buffered 4 months for that. Next up, we'll be designing a pricing model with multiple tiers and multiple features for each tier. Last but not least, we'll be designing technical requirements, specifically the process map and technology stack that we need to enable the customized date suggestion. Let's look at the process map. There are 3 steps in this process map, and with the goal of using hobby and location to generate actually useful date ideas. First, the hobby. We have hobby information within finders and keepers as the users fill the surveys, and we'll be filtering that survey to find common hobbies. For example, 2 users might both like pizza. Second, how do we figure out location data? We'll be using Google APIs to be filtering for the top pizza location in the given area. And that's actually a very cheap solution at half a cent per data request. So with both, we will be able to get information that both users like pizza and they both live in this location and be able to suggest the Google's top rated pizza restaurants in that area. Moving on to execution, we'll be having our internal software engineering team to develop the algorithms to filter for common interest and also integrating with the Google API to get those location-based searches. In addition, we'll be doing multiple beta testings to ensure both accuracy of the date idea and also usefulness of this date idea so that we actually give something that's pragmatic. Moving on to monitoring, we want to monitor that our subscription conversion rates can really hit that 10%, which we easily do as that's just the industry average. Second, we want to be improving our revenue more than how much we can by how much we can selling the data, so more than 900,000. And also, we'll be continuously monitoring our suggestions and gradually adding more factors and data sources to make the suggestions even better. Now, we understand this is a big change in your revenue model, and there must be a good change management plan in place. We'll be using the ADKAR model with awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcements. Most important step here is awareness. We want to be aware that selling data is unethical, especially when your entire industry is moving away from that. It will soon become also not sustainable. And we have robust financial appendix and timelines to show how this is feasible. Let's move on to securing relationship. The key milestone is in 4 months, we want to be able to classify our data, encrypt them, and also develop an emergency contingency plan. Moving on, we'll be having 3 layers of data where public data is available for everyone. Internal data is only available for all employees, which would, for example, be a customer relationship management data, and user password will be strictly confidential. We'll be planning that by classifying all the data we have, putting them into the categories, encrypting the data, and lastly, setting up an emergency plan. We'll be executing this through having robust access policies, updating our anti-malware, and also doing sufficient social engineering training. We'll be monitoring the cyber securities through testing, where white hat hackers will be testing our system and employee compliance, and also zero leak KPI. Let's look at the financial impact. In the first year, we'll be spending significant money into the development algorithm so that it will be losing 2.5 million. But in second year, we'll be making 3.7 million. So we can stay profitable with this plan in 2 years. And we're staying within the constraint of $5 million by actually only spending $2.7 million. So this is also within your constraint. The major risk to be addressed is industry-wide, which is catfishing. And the impact we hope to hit is that you will be able to have 3.7 million in net profits just in your second year and zero leak. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. All right, and with that, we begin the question period. So judges, feel free to raise your hand. We're going to start with Daniel.
Thank you. I have one question with 2 parts. Although we have great growth, we see retention problems with other applications for 2 main reasons. One of them is catfishing, as you mentioned, and the other one because once people find their relationship, they lose interest in the application. Any suggestions from you that we can take to improve our retention?
Sure, I can take that one. So the concern is that once you find your match, you'll be off the app because you'll be living a perfect life with your match. And so we actually think that this type of churn is actually good because they'll be able to refer us to their friends, and a success story is more important than not being able to find any matches and leaving in that type of churn. So we think that this is actually can increase our growth since it's a success story that we can maybe use to market in the future.
Next question will be from Justin.
Thanks, guys. This was really good. I really like the attention to detail on the shift from selling data to alternate revenue streams. One of the statements you made was that our competitors are moving towards that model, but fact of the matter is they're still there and they're making tremendous profits. What's to be gained for this executive team to being an early adopter of moving away from selling that data into the alternate revenue streams?
That's a great question, and I can take that. There are 2 main gaining factors. First, it comes to our value, being an ethical and secure brand. We want to be the leader in being ethical and protecting our user data. Second, we can actually move on to a much more profitable model that as our user base grow, we can significantly make more profit by actually giving good service and good date suggestions so that they can subscribe to our service.
And the next question will come from Chris.
Great job. This was a very, very well put together. Yeah, the attention to detail to a lot of the factors was impressive. But the one thing that I'm just trying to position is that when you look at all these competitors, you look at Bumble, I think they're offering features where you're really, really focused on a little bit more on connection and not just the dating aspect of it. Look at Tinder, hey, swipe right. And I'm looking at this and I'm just trying to figure out where, and Hinge, I think they have designed to be deleted. And so I'm just really struggling to kind of find out where this is exactly positioned, where it truly differentiates, because throughout this whole presentation, I think you covered, you looked into a lot, but like the feature piece I'm looking at is this plan dates. I think it's a great feature, but I'm wondering, how are you going to evolve this AI piece where it can really compete with all these competitors to really truly differentiate? Because I'm not seeing it right now positioned. Can you kind of help me kind of show me the way?
That's a great question. That's very legitimate concern. As a startup, it would be very difficult for us to right away have the best algorithm in place to be better in algorithm-wise than Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. However, what we can do is identify the right direction to move towards, and knowing that we can suggest date ideas, we can suggest much more things into the future. We are leveraging what we have. We have the 3 profiles, not just dating, but also for friends, also for careers. We can keep on suggesting more things beyond dating for careers, for friends, and also to more locations, to more events. So with this direction, we can suggest much more things in the future.
Judges, do we have any further questions? If not, then we can end the question period early. So thank you, everybody, for that presentation. And delegates, I would just ask now that you and the attendees can now exit the call. But yes, thank you again for that presentation.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Great job.